Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about Jim Carrey and how he used the law of attraction to reach his goals and dreams and desire and so much more. If you want to know everything about how Jim Carrey used his mind to achieve his goals and transcended even his goals, please stay tuned till the end of the episode. And once again, I'm deeply appreciative for those of you who share my video, like my video, and comment on my video. I'm really appreciative. I am even appreciative if you comment in a negative way. Everything is appreciated and it does help my channel grow. So I hope you will keep doing so. Thank you very much. Now let's get into it. Jim Carrey is one of the greatest, most famous comedians of all time. He was born in the suburbs of Toronto to Kathleen and Percy Carey in 1962. From a very young age, Jim Carrey was already on his way to become an entertainer. At the age of 10, he wrote a letter to Carol Burnett of The Carol Burnett Show, pointing out that he was already a master of impressions and should be considered for a role on the show. Carrey spent his early years in the former city of Scarborough, Ontario, now part of Toronto. His family later moved to Burlington, Ontario. His family had financial woes, and as a teenager, Jim Carrey and his siblings would have to work as janitors and security guards at the fire factory where their father was employed. On his 16th birthday, Jim Carrey dropped out of school. He began to perform comedy while continuing to work at the factory. Sometime later, his family became homeless and lived together in a van. Carrey said in an interview that if his career in show business had not worked out, he would probably be working in Hamilton's Dofako Stills Mill. Carrey struggled to make a name for himself in comedy. His acts bombed many times, which made him doubtful about his ability to entertain. His family's financial struggle also made it hard for them to support Jim Carrey's ambitions. After some time, the Carrey moved into a new home. After they had resolved their financial woes, he polished his act and became increasingly better at his craft, gaining him more and more popularity as well as momentum. He got regular paid shows, doing open mics and touring as an opening act for comedian Rodney Dangerfield. Jim Carrey then moved to Hollywood, where he began performing at the Comedy Store. He became recognized as an up-and-coming star and finally got himself a spot on The Tonight Show. From 1990 to 1994, he became a regular cast member in the comedy television series In Living Color. He rose to stardom after the Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber movies. He became known as a great comedian. Later on, he also received critical acclaim for more serious roles in movies like The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Jim Carrey's journey is an interesting one, a very interesting one. We could sum it in those following words. There are two great tragedies in life. The first one is not getting what you want. The second one is getting what you want. Jim Carrey has always been a great law of attraction practitioner and a great believer in its power. So he did get all he ever wanted, but it was not all rainbows and butterflies. Jim Carrey is also known for being on Prozac for a long time and suffering from depression. He called it a low level of despair. He had to deal with it for a large part of his life. Why Jim Carrey is such an interesting case study? Jim Carrey is the proof that you can truly receive all you want from the universe. That being said, Jim Carrey can also serve as a cautionary tale to prevent us from the dangers, quote-unquote, of some of our desires. Perhaps we should in fact beware what we wish for and for what reasons we would want such things to manifest into our physical reality. Furthermore, maybe there is something better than desiring and getting or not getting what we want. Maybe there is inside of us something that is enough and needs no further validation. Perhaps we are truly enough, not the end of our journey where all success and desires have come to pass, but perhaps to begin with, regardless of anything in our outside circumstances. Now let's figure this out. Jim Carrey said he always manifested all he ever wanted. He started with one of his teachers. from the second grade, telling his class that every time she wanted something, she would just pray for it and give something in return and wait for it to appear in her life. Jim Carrey took those words to heart. At that time, his family could not afford a bicycle, and it is something that he had been yearning for. So he prayed for it, and after a few weeks, he was told that he had won a bicycle from a contest that one of his friends had entered for him without telling Jim. Jim Carrey claimed that he had been using this method ever since that moment. He said that as far as he was concerned, the way it was just to throw a rocket of desire into the universe and let go of how it would come to pass. Our job is not to figure out how it will come to pass. Our job is to move in the direction of our dreams and wait for the right door to open, and when it opens, walk through it. Before he became a superstar, Jim Carrey used to drive to Mulholland Drive and visualize his success to come. He would visualize good things happening to him and how the people would react to his movies. He would do this to make himself feel good and to make him realize that those things are possible. In the beginning of the 1990s, Jim Carrey wrote himself a $10 million check for services rendered. He did it for 3 years after. He kept it in his pocket and it kept on deteriorating. One day, a couple of years later, he received a call telling him that he was about to make $10 million for his next movie, Dumb and Dumber. A few years later, his father died. He left the check in his father's suit before they closed the coffin. This shows how powerful Jim Carrey's mind is when it comes to creating his own desired reality. In his words, he said that he has an insane belief in his ability to manifest, that everything stems from our intentions. Our intentions are everything. Jim Carrey found his vocation very early in life. His mother was feeling sad at one point of his childhood years, and Jim Carrey would do everything and anything to get her to feel better. He said, "When I was 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern. When I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern, the Church of FFC, and I dedicated myself to that ministry." Jim Carrey talked very highly about his father. He said that he was the funniest person ever and also a sensational saxophonist. Unfortunately, his father never really took a chance and ended up settling for an unfulfilling pragmatic career as an accountant. However, on his 51st birthday, he got laid off from his position. Jim Carrey said that this really hurt his father because he had failed at something that was not for him, that was not his purpose, that was not his calling. From that experience, many years later, Jim Carrey said those following words at the Maharishi University. "So many of us choose our path out of fear disguised as practicality. What we really want seems impossible and possibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love." The way Jim Carrey succeeded is by adding value to this world in a genuine, authentic, and unique way. Jim Carrey also said, "As someone who has done what you're about to go do, I can tell you from experience the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is. Everything you gain in life will rot and fall apart, and all that will be left of you is what you are in your heart." In Buddhism, we call this generosity. Generosity can be many things. Generally, we can say that it's anything that is given to someone else with the intention of enhancing that person's life for the better. It is one of the highest quality of the spiritual life, and it is rewarded 1,000-fold. One thing that is also important to understand is that you don't need to be ecstatic and happy 24/7 to manifest the reality you want. Jim Carrey's life situation is a proof of that. Too often, we believe that if we are not happy and super joyful at all times, we will not get what we want. Now, don't get me wrong. Being in the states of joy, gratitude, peace, and unconditional love are very high levels on the vibrational chart of David Hawkins and also the emotional chart of Abraham Hicks. For those of you who are familiar with this information, you know or at least are aware that things become much more effortless and easy the higher you get up those ladders. I think a lot of us have been in that situation. We wake up, we don't feel over the moon, and we start thinking we are doing something wrong. Truth be told, it is not necessarily as easy to always get into those higher vibrational states of consciousness, let alone sustain them. It does not mean that we should not aspire to reach those heights. We have to bear in mind that the more we can be in those states and sustain them, the higher up and the more advanced, quote unquote, we'll be on the spiritual path. There is nothing wrong to start from the bottom. We all start with a white belt, but it is not necessarily something you need to manifest your desires into reality. All you need to manifest is imprint your subconscious mind, then ignore your reality and persist in the assumption that what you want, you already have. In other words, ignoring things in your reality that are not aligned with your desires, not reacting to them, not entertaining the negative thoughts or the lack of what you want in your current reality, and reaffirming that you already have your imagined reality consistently and as often as needed. The Buddha said that the mind is the forerunner of all things. Your thoughts create. So by keeping a trail of thoughts that are aligned with your desire, you will bring them into facts. Now, if you are depressed about not getting what you want, that's a problem because you are negating your imagined reality. But if you're depressed about something that does not interfere with your desires, it is not an issue. And Jim Carrey is the proof of that. He got everything he ever wanted, even though he had suffered many years of depression. Which brings me to another point, the why of desires. Why you want what you want. Sometimes you can get what you want and depression ensues. Other times you don't get what you want and still get depressed. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. A lot of our desires are conditioned by our peers, by society, by the survival of our ego instead of our true desire. Our need to achieve status and the illusion of power can blind us to what our heart truly wants. Jim Carrey said, "You can join the game, fight the wars, play with form all you want, but to find real peace, you have to let the armor fall. Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this life." We have to strip our desires of the fat, keep them lean. That fat is the glamour. The glamour is a concept from David Hawkins. He calls glamour the illusions we have on some of our desires, the belief that getting what we want will truly make us happy. What we are really searching for is what we already have inside, the ability to generate that joy and peace and be of service to ourselves and the world. Jim Carrey said, because ultimately we are not the avatars we create. We are not the pictures on the film stock. We are the light that shines through. All else is just smoke and mirrors, distracting but not truly compelling. The imagination is always manufacturing scenarios, both good and bad, and the ego tries to keep you trapped in the multiplex of the mind. Our eyes are not only viewers but also projectors that are running a second story over the picture we see in front of us all the time. Fear is writing that script, and the working title is "I'll Never Be Enough." He goes on to say, no matter what you gain, your ego will not let you rest. It will tell you that you cannot stop until you have left an indelible mark on the earth, until you have achieved immortality. How tricky is the ego that it would tempt us with the promise of something we already possess. We have to beware of those desires that are vague and abstract and all too often the same as other people's desire, because that's what the world has manufactured as a picture-perfect image of what our lives should be like. That image is reinforced by the mainstream medias, advertising and peer pressure, which too often leads to depression and deep feeling of unrest. The Buddha said that desire never stops. Desire is a hunger that is unsatiable. Desire is a thirst that is unquenchable. Contentment is the highest wealth. Does it mean we have to give up all our desires? Of course not. It is important, however, to understand and take the time to understand what we truly want. Once we strip off all the layers of conditioning, we oftentimes find out that our desires are pretty basic, yet incredibly beautiful and worthwhile. We want to express and be of service in our own unique ways. Express our true authentic self with love and creativity. Be present and caring for that moment. That's our true nature. David Hawkins in his book Letting Go talks about how true state of being is one of peace, one of love, one of acceptance, and that negative feelings and emotion block that natural state like clouds block the sun. Jim Carrey said, "Don't let anything stand in the way of the light that shines through this form. Risk being seen in all of your glory." Once you have found what you truly desire, the things that make your heart sing, you can embody it and let go of the state of wantingness, which is a lower state of vibration. Write what you want on a paper. Visualize it lovingly and let it come to you. If you are feeling frustrated or too eager to get your desires fulfilled, ask yourself why. Dig deep. Do you fear not getting it because you're afraid of what people will say? Are you afraid of not being good enough? Are you realizing that this desire is not what you truly want? Let go of the resistance. Let go of all the bullshit. Let go of all the clouds of negativity. Earl Nightingale said that success is a progressive realization of an ideal. You don't get it right at once. Let go little by little of the things that are holding you back. Let go of your smaller self. Encourage your higher self and let the light shine through you. Yes, it will be shaky, and yes, it will feel uncomfortable. You will not quote unquote succeed unless you take some risk. It starts with courage first and becomes more and more effortless. In his works, Michael A. Singer talks about being fully present and accepting of the circumstances without adding any judgment. Let the flow of that present moment guide you. Don't do things out of fear. Be kind, caring, and gentle to this present moment and dare to follow your intuition and that little voice that is lovingly guiding you. It does start with courage to move you in the right direction, but it takes less actions as you go on, for there is less and less resistance and fear. To finish this part of the video on Jim Carrey, I'll leave you with the finishing words he gave to the Maharishi University students. Please read them over and over again. Please go to YouTube and listen to them over and over until they sink in. Here we go. Don't worry if you miss your cue. There will always be another door opening. They keep opening. And when I say life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, I really don't know if that's true. I'm just making a conscious choice to perceive challenges as something beneficial so that I can deal with them in the most productive way. You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun. Why not take a chance on fate as well? Take a chance on fate. Not religion, but faith. Not hope, but faith. I don't believe in hope. Hope is a beggar. Hope walks through the fire. Faith leaps over it. You already have, and you're already able to do beautiful things in this world. And after you walk through those doors, today you will only have two choices: love or fear. Choose love and don't ever let fear turn you against your playful heart. Thank you so much for listening until then. Thank you so much for listening to this video. I hope you will reap the benefit of all the things I've shared with you and you will start applying in your life. If you want to know more about the concepts I'm talking about in this video, please check the link in the description box below and the link to Amazon, my book, How Celebrities Apply the Law of Attraction to Succeed. Thank you so much and see you soon.